Hi, I'm Dolly Curtis, and tonight we are really lucky to have with us Harvey and Barbara Paris, who have done so many things and will do so many more things in the future that I thought we're going to try to cover as much of this as we can, share it with you. So, hi, Harvey.
Hey, Dolly.
It's always been wonderful knowing you all these years, and Barbara, with all the terrific things we've been able to do together.
Well, thank you for having us,
Which I
Dolly.
appreciate a lot of it, too. So we're going to start first with a little bit of a discussion of Harvey's been the director. I don't know his exact title. You could tell me.
I'm the president of Jewish Family Service.
Okay, he's the president of Jewish Family Services, which is a non-profit.
Exactly. We've been in the greater Bridgeport area since 1922. Interestingly enough, when World War I ended, the Jewish population started leaving New York, walking along the Sound, and the population swelled in the greater Bridgeport area. So the local community could not provide the services. The butchers who had been giving meat to poor Jews, the coalmen that had been providing coal, the local resources were overwhelmed, so the community decided that they were going to hire professional social services, and they hired their first social worker in 1922, and that's how Jewish Family Service began.
So were they always on Park Avenue?
No, they were down at Golden Hill Street. They've been on Park Avenue since the 70s, and we just moved out 1 year ago. In 2013, we just moved down to Reef Road in Fairfield. But we've been in the greater Bridgeport community now for 90 years.
I always loved driving by because I always felt, oh, there are my friends there that on the corner. But then I saw the building looked forlorn, and then I thought, so everyone's going to know where you are soon. Where are you exactly on Reef Road?
We're on Reef Road in the medical building, which is, I understand, it's 325 Reef Road. I understand it's the oldest medical building in Fairfield. I think it's about 45, 50 years old.
So are you after the police station?
Yes, we're across the street from the police station, 2 buildings down from the 7-Eleven. Most people know that.
So you're right near the police station?
Yes, yes.
And
we're a block closer to the Sound than the police station. So it's really wonderful. We have an elevator, we have parking. The people that we had been seeing in all of the areas, Bridgeport, are coming and able to get to us. Those clients that cannot come to us because they're elderly or they have some sort of physical handicaps, we'll go to them. So we've been providing service to people in need in the greater Bridgeport area for over 90 years now, and we're continuing to do it now from our Fairfield location.
So one of the thoughts that I had, and Barbara can help me here too, is what is some? I know you do a lot of adoption.
Yes, I've also been with the agency over 25 years, and I started as the volunteer coordinator, and we still have a very active volunteer program. We give rides to seniors, we have phone reassurance, we take people shopping, and so we're always looking for new volunteers. A little plug that anyone who has any time to volunteer. We run a lot of support groups, the widows support group, caregivers support groups, and then in the late 80s and the 90s, we had a second wave of Russian immigrants who came to our community from the former Soviet Union. So we did a lot with them, helped them find apartments and jobs and taught them English. And it was really a labor of love. We met some fine, fine people that we still keep in touch with today. And when the resettlement efforts, the wave ended and not as many folks came, I began or revitalized our adoption program. And I started with one adoption, and I'm happy to report to date I've probably helped about 500 families successfully adopt children.
Really? I knew that you did adoptions, but I never understood why they were mostly Russian babies.
Well, what I basically do is, as my work is, everyone who adopts needs a home study. So I help with the home study. And then I help families decide what's the best route for them to go. So half the families might choose to do a domestic adoption, to adopt an infant anywhere in the United States. And there are certain states that are a little better for adoption. So a lot of my folks will go to Utah, Texas, Florida to find a baby there. And then the other half internationally. Unfortunately, the world of international adoption is shrinking a little bit because I'm sure you know in the news Russia closed their doors to American adoption. China's very hard to get babies out of China right now. There's a long, long wait of probably 5 years. So if you're willing to take a child with a special need, you can get a Chinese child sooner. But the options, a lot of the countries have stopped allowing Americans to adopt. And so it's kind of shrunk and getting harder and harder, for people to adopt internationally.
But there are babies available to anyone who wants to adopt.
There are?
Yeah, Barbara's able to find babies for everyone that goes through the process, which is getting a home study and fill out the paperwork as you're supposed to. Barbara knows agencies that have babies. So yeah, I think that everyone that came to her wanting to adopt, she's been able to get a baby for.
And I think one of my specialties is people that maybe are a little older or might have had some health concerns and think they're not eligible to adopt. And somehow I'm able to hook them up with the right agency and still find a way. And so it's a win-win for everybody, really, because these people really want children. They make wonderful parents. We've worked with single parents. We've worked with same-sex couples.
I know, I've met a few of the people.
You don't have to be Jewish to work and, come to our adoption program. Although we're Jewish Family Service, we work with all religions, ethnicities, all denominations.
This is all wonderful information of which I didn't know most of this.
And I think the beautiful thing is that anyone who wants to adopt works directly with Barbara, who's recognized as the Connecticut Angel of Adoption
I
a
don't
couple
doubt
of years
that.
ago by Senator Lieberman.
Really?
So she was honored in Washington, D.C., and she's the one who would work with you. So you're really getting the best right here in the greater Bridgeport
So
area.
exactly what was the title? Say that again.
Angel in Adoption. And what happened was the senators or the congressmen, depending on the state, were asked to nominate a candidate to be recognized. And I was nominated for the Connecticut honor, and we all met in Washington, D.C., and they had a lovely ceremony and a dinner for us.
So she's very humble and
She's
modest.
humble. She's humble and modest. So I just would like to end about Jewish Family Service by
I
saying
want to know
that,
more.
Well, that's true, but we provide services to all members of the community that have needs. We do not turn anyone away due to inability to pay. We provide counseling services. We provide one-on-one counseling services. We used to receive money from the state of Connecticut and other federated fundings to serve people, United Way, Jewish Federation. We don't receive any money from anyone now but the community. There are about 1,000 people in the community that make donations, and thanks to the donations of the people in the community, we provide services to the people in the community.
But it's rough times because of the funding losses, and so we've had to be creative in trying to find some other ways to keep going, and we're very committed, to helping people. And just this week, I worked on a case that kind of was of personal interest. We had a client for many, many years who we had counseled and helped find housing and find benefits, etc. And we heard she passed away. And when I heard she had been conserved at the end and she had died, it turned out that her body was laying in one of the hospitals in the morgue for 3 weeks already. No one had made any arrangements for a proper burial. And being Jewish, and I'm studying for the rabbinate,
Right.
It hurt my soul so deeply to think this poor lady was not buried with dignity. So I took it upon myself to try to find what was going on. And to make a long story short, this week we found a plot and we found some money, and I will be burying her this week.
I know, it's an amazing story you told me, and also it's expensive. All those things are expensive.
Right. But, I think that people, one of the mottos at Jewish Family Service is that, we're there as a caring community, and that is first and foremost, and to have people live with dignity and to, regardless of what their position is, it doesn't matter how much money they have, but to have the same rights to a good life.
Right.
That's right.
That's pretty marvelous.
Same way we say the goals of the goal, the mission of our senior services is to keep the seniors living with dignity in the community. So we provide rides for them.
I didn't know any of this, really. I mean, I came one time
Excuse
to
me.
your organization. That was wonderful for me. I was very ill at the time.
Right, that's right.
And they saw me through that episode. That was maybe half a year. I had been sick prior a year or two before, so I was always so grateful. Also, they treated me very nicely.
Well, we treat everybody with dignity. Anyone who knocks on our door, we welcome them in. You know, in the winter we'll give them a hot drink. In the summer we'll give them a cold drink. But everyone is treated with dignity, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of Jewish families.
Well, and I think it's interesting that, you know, so many in the Jewish community, you know, don't think there are Jews that have problems with alcohol or mental illness or drug issues or poverty, lost jobs, and, you know, we live kind of put our head buried in the sand sometimes.
Right?
That's
people
right. And
so
people say, oh, not in the Jewish community, that isn't going on. And, you know, we don't advertise, we can't take ads in the paper saying, oh, we helped these 5 people this week because we want to maintain their confidentiality,
Right. Yeah,
etc.
really.
So a lot of people say Jewish Family Service is the best kept secret because they don't know what we do. You know, we used to be on Park Avenue, as you mentioned, and everyone said, we know what goes on there. And we don't do a good enough job promoting what we do because we're busy doing the work we need to be doing.
Right. And that's how many people can you put to doing this, the publicity. So I'm really happy that you're here then telling everybody in PK and listenership about this. Because really I didn't know, and I've even been counseled and I didn't know about all.
Counseling is one of the services we offer, along with adoption and resettlement and services for seniors. We have volunteer programs with children. So we're doing a lot of good stuff. Look us up on the web, www.jfsct.org. JFS,
All right,
Jewish
so
Family Service.
now that we get a chance to talk about that, I wanted to be selfish and talk a little bit about Harvey. Because in the last few years, I, having come to Jewish Family Services, knew Harvey's name, and I was in a museum, and I saw his artwork, which was wood chipping. You call it wood chipping.
Chip carving.
Chip carving, and it was in the historic...
Fairfield Historical Museum was doing had an exhibit about the Jewish community in the Greater Bridgeport area, and they had historical works of art in the Jewish community, and mine was the latest one that was made. I had carved a box for the holiday of Sukkot, where we put an etrog, which is a citrus. It smells like a lemon. It's part of the holiday. It's the rabbi could tell us more about it later if she'd like to.
But I was
carved
so
the box.
impressed, you know, that your work was under plexiglass, and I thought maybe you've been doing this for years, and I didn't know if you would consider showing it in the Easton Library where I curate the art. But I got to somewhere along the line, I saw you and I asked you, and you said we gave it a year's time, so you had a year to think it through.
To learn how to do it. Yeah.
Well, anyhow, when you came that time and did the display, tell everybody how you did it, because it was so impressive.
Well, I started chip carving in 2006, so really I haven't been doing it my whole life. When Barbara decided to go to rabbinical school, I had a lot of downtime. So we figured out I needed a hobby, a quiet hobby. She said, you can do anything you want, but don't play the bongo drums, because she needed to study Torah.
Yeah.
She needed to study, so I needed to have a quiet hobby for about 20 hours a week. And I always liked wood. I was always attracted to wood. And I started looking at various uses of wood, and I decided to go with chip carving because I wanted to do it in the house, in the bedroom, and I didn't want to have all kinds of dirt. I didn't want to have a whole shop with 20 rasps and files and power tools. The beauty of chip carving is you're basically just using 2 handheld knives.
Really? There's no
all that is,
mess
2 hands.
because you're chipping away all those pieces?
Well, they fall on the floor and you just sweep them up.
Oh,
So
you
I
could
do it in
just-
the 4th bedroom. Right.
You could just put a little drop cloth down.
Not even necessary. All you do have to do is own a broom.
Okay.
So I learned how to chip carve. Actually, I learned how to chip carve in one weekend. Nobody masters a craft in one weekend, but I learned how to do the rudimentary of it in one weekend. And I've been doing it now for about 8 years. And I think that
I call myself the greatest, I'm the world's greatest Jewish chip carver because I think I'm the only chip carver in the world. It really is
Jewish chip
the only
carver.
the only one who's chip carving Judaica. Every civilization, every culture that had access to wood has carved. But chip carving really, I think, came out of the Northern European tradition. It was the long winters in Switzerland when you'd get snowed in, and what would you do for 6 months or 5 months or 4 months? Every piece of wood in the house, and the whole house was built out of wood, you'd carve all of the beams, all of the butter bowls, all the pots, all the pans. And so this chip carving came, and what chip carving is we use a knife to take chips of wood out of the wood, and that you're removing chips, creating designs. So I've taken it to start working with Jewish motifs. So I chip carve. I've done a challah board for Shabbos. We already talked about for Sukkot. I do an etrog box. I do tzedakah boxes. That's charity. That's a charity box that you put money in. I do that. And then for the last year, I started working on big pieces. So I actually carved a Torah, an ark for a Torah, which was fabulous. And then since then, I
when it went somewhere.
went to Wake Forest. Actually, Wake Forest University commissioned me, and Barbara and I went down to Wake Forest, Carolina, and it was very, very exciting. We marched with the Torah, and it was put in its new house. It was really very exciting, and that made me realize that I could work on big pieces, not just little boxes or little plates. So I just created two 24 by 24 inch carvings. One was in honor of King Solomon. I read Song of Songs and some of his other works, right? Song of Songs is King Solomon, and I created a chip carving. And my latest one was from Exodus. I chip carved the Revelation at Mount Sinai.
I just can't get over it. You started not even 10 years, and you're making leaps. And first of all, you had a real inclination to it.
I guess so.
I mean, I saw the work in a
guess so.
museum. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So then when you came to Easton, you did that beautiful display, which you thought it all through. That was what was so spectacular. He made a website that supported it, and so he had that piece that he was putting out to the highest bidder for the mental health.
Oh, that was
mental
for
health.
Newtown. Yeah, when the tragedy happened in Newtown, I created a piece, and if memory serves me well, 26 people were killed in Newtown.
Yes, 26.
So what I did is I removed only 26 chips of wood, and by removing 26 chips of wood, I created a Jewish star, a cross, and a moon and crescent, the sign of Islam, and I created a peace sign, and I created a broken heart, all just by removing 26 pieces of wood. And I felt that what I showed was the three religions, the greatest aspirations that humanity has strived to
It was
come to.
round, wasn't it? What
It was a plate. Yeah, I carved a plate, and then I took those chips, those 26 chips, and I put them around the edge of the plate,
Oh,
and
how
I mounted them, and some of them were broken because chips don't always come out whole, and that represented the poor 26 souls that were killed.
And then you got the word out. That was the good part, too. You didn't just put it on display and say the highest bidder. I remember you did some good press. We did it
We
together.
did some good press,
And the
and
money
we ended up
went
raising
from-
$2,000
I
to
remember.
help provide counseling to Connecticut residents that were affected by the tragedy.
Because
So
at first you didn't have that kind of response, and then we had some press, which I remember helping you.
You got some very good
But
press.
you did some very good press, and that was helpful, and then you got a real nice bid.
Well, the Newtown Bee picked it up as you would expect, but the Bridgeport Post was nice enough to pick up the story as well. That was I think it was the Thursday section. It was
Yes,
very
the
nice.
Go section's
It was
Thursday.
The Go section was very,
I
very
thought
nice.
you did so well with that. Then the bid went all the way up, and it was a really good thing.
Yeah, it was $2,000, and we used it to provide mental health counseling. So
Plus,
that
the
was
whole
fabulous.
case was filled with. I remember coming to the talk that you gave.
And you had some interesting Holocaust pieces as well. You did a series.
I did a series on the Holocaust. So yes, when we had that exhibit at the library, we had a whole. We set a little memorial section up in the library to the Holocaust. We had the Yiskar prayer was printed, and we had the Kaddish, It was really,
And you
I
gave
thought
a
it was very
talk.
moving.
That
Yeah.
was very well done, and I walked in, and people were so anxious. You had started already. I remember that you had a nice
Yeah.
group. Barbara was introducing you, which I thought was beautiful. Like she was telling everybody how
Right.
outstanding, because you have such a big support right here. And
Right.
it was a very nice experience when you did the Eastern. Some people don't take it as seriously, but we worked out, you and I, together a whole year getting that ready, so that was great.
It was very enjoyable. Yeah, I
And then
appreciate
you've
it.
made leaps and bounds. I mean, with that commission, you showed it to a lot of us at an art salon party, and I think
Yes.
you brought a piece, didn't you?
Well,
bring
you know,
something?
when I did bring a piece, that was that big piece for Solomon, and the piece that I worked on, the Revelation piece, I really been experimenting with new techniques. You know, I've been doing it now 8 years, and you learn the fundamentals, and as Barbara says, that's when you can start riffing off them and start doing things differently. So I was holding the knife in different angles, and I was staining differently, and I was really doing some very interesting things. And I think that's what it's all about, being an artist. You know, you have to keep pushing
I
yourself.
don't know,
and
he
pushing
made leaps
yourself
and bounds, didn't
pushing
he, Barbara?
yourself.
Unbelievable. And I think, to hear him speak about the piece is what I really appreciate, because you could look at the piece and it's beautiful and you see all the work that went in it. But the backstory of what it means
I
to
know,
him,
all the symbols of
right,
everything,
that's
the
what
carving.
really makes
I have a lot
an
of-
artist rather than a craftsman, I'd say.
Thank you.
That you know your craft, but I think you go beyond that now to really have a thought process.
Well, I have a website which I really talk about a lot of the backstories in the piece. It's called jewishcarving.com. So anyone who's interested in not only seeing the carvings, and my two most recent pieces, the Revelation at Sinai, was just got up there last week.
I know, I love it. You're so thorough.
Yeah.
You do such
He
a good
also
job.
does beautiful work for, weddings. People commission him for a present for a wedding or for a bar mitzvah, and it's completely personalized, so he really designs it to fit with the occasion. And
Imagine what he's going to do in the next 5 years after what he's accomplished in the first 8. It's amazing. But you're amazing too, so I want to take a couple minutes and let you tell us what happened in your life that everybody is just so taken back by.
Well, I guess, it's never too late. I hope I'm an inspiration to some or many that, you're never too old to take on another aspect of your life. And what happened with me was that I grew up in a rather secular Jewish household in Long Island. And I didn't have a bat mitzvah. I didn't belong to a synagogue. My most Jewish thing I did was go to my grandmother's for a Passover Seder. And I knew I was Jewish, but I didn't know anything what it meant to be Jewish, really, other than, eating matzah ball soup and brisket and having, matzah on Pesach. And when we moved to this area in 1982 or so, and we went to Monroe at first, and it was not a very Jewish community. And I was called on quite often to explain, the different holidays, etc. So I began studying on my own a little bit, reading, studying. We joined a synagogue, and I just had this desire. I almost felt like I had a hole inside me that needed to be filled. And so fast forward, I just did some stuff on my own. And then I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, a hyperactive thyroid, and one of the prescriptions that the doctor gave me was to take yoga. And so I started taking yoga classes, and I loved the yoga, but the Sanskrit and it didn't resonate with me. It wasn't Jewish. It didn't feel Jewish, obviously. So one night I'm, on the internet, and I put in Jewish and yoga. And lo and behold, a book comes up that was called Torah Yoga, written by a Diane Bloomfield. And when I finished the book, I emailed her, and we began a correspondence. And it turned out she lived in Jerusalem, and we were having a trip to Israel, and she invited us to be her guest at her home for Shabbat. And while I was there, I said, "Do you ever teach this Torah Yoga somewhere that I could learn more?" And she said, "Actually, we're having our first 4-week seminar of it up in Accord, New York, at a place called Ilat Chaim, which is a Jewish spiritual center. And I signed up. I'll never forget the day I left, because Harvey and I had never really been apart, and now I'm leaving for a week to go to this place I know nothing about, to take this Torah yoga program. And at the end of the 4 weeks, it was like over an 18-month period. You studied, and in between there was assignments, and you had a partner to study online with. And at the end of it, the two teachers, there was another woman rabbi named Miriam Klotz, who lives in Philly, they said to me, Barbara, you need to go learn. They said, you have such a zest for it, and you're always complaining, but I don't have a good background, and I don't know Hebrew, and I didn't grow up with it. And they said, do something about it. So they recommended I go to this school called the Academy for Jewish Religion. It was in Riverdale when I went there, and they had a program called the Mechina program, kind of nursery school. And I went for a year, and I learned a little bit of Torah, a little bit of history, a little bit of Hebrew, and I liked it very much. But I thought, okay, this is great. I'm done. I'm a social worker at Jewish Family Service. That's my career. And the dean of the school came to me and said, your interview is August 17th. And I said, what interview? And he said, well, aren't you coming to the rabbinic school? I said, I didn't plan on it. And I came home. I said to Harvey, what should I do? And he said, what do you have to lose? Go for the interview.
Right. Go for the interview.
And I was accepted into the school. Believe it or not, that was 9 years ago.
Well, I would figure it's an intense...
So if you go, the school is a part-time school because it's mostly older learners, second career students. So it only meets Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There are 70 classes that are required for you to take. And each class is 1 credit. So it's not like 3 credits, for 70 credits. It's 70 individual classes that are required. And so because I work at Jewish Family Service, I only could take 2-3 classes a semester, which is why it's taken me, a little bit longer than some. If you went the 3 days, you could probably finish in about 5 years or so. But God willing, if all works out, I'll be graduating next May 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Not this one. Oh. I'm done with all my 70 classes, and now there's quite a lot of exams that you have to pass, and you have to write a thesis.
So you haven't told anybody yet what the end result is?
So the end result is I'm going to be ordained as a rabbi, and the learning has been amazing. I do a lot already as kind of a student rabbi. I'm the Friday night rabbi at Choate Rosemary Hall in Wallingford. I've done that for about 6 years already, so I go every Friday, and we do a little service with the kids. I lead services for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We put up a sukkah. We dance with the Torahs on Simchas Torah, and it's great. I love the work there because these kids don't come from that good a background, similar to how I was. And I feel like I'm planting seeds that if I can spark an interest in these kids in something Jewish, then I've done something good, I'm also the chaplain at St. Vincent's Hospital. I'm the Jewish chaplain there. So I work 10 hours a week, and I visit all the Jewish patients that are there. And I love that because it's a Catholic hospital. And at first I go in the room, and the patient will say, oh, no, I don't want a chaplain. And I say, no, I'm Jewish. And I wear a yarmulke. I bend over. I say, you see? And they say, you're Jewish? And I said, yeah, I'm studying to be a rabbi. So they said, come on, come sit down. And we have amazing conversations about God and end-of-life issues and what they believe or don't believe in many cases. And so I find that rich, very rich work. And my colleagues at the hospital are amazing. I work with nuns and deacons and priests, and we have such a good rapport, all of us. We're always talking theology and learning from each other, and it's really special. And then the third thing I've been doing is I'm the student rabbi at JCCH in Harrison. It's a conservative synagogue. So I did my internship there the first year, and then they've since hired me. And so I'm running the Rosh Chodesh group, which is the New Moon group for the women. I'm teaching a Torah class every week. working with some women who are having an adult bat mitzvah, so I'm teaching them Hebrew.
Have anybody helping you? Is any secretary, any kind of help organizing all this, all these different jobs?
No,
Really?
my husband, I think I couldn't do it
tremendous.
without
She's
him.
amazing. She's really amazing.
Because-
she really
but-
is an inspiration to us, all the
I
things
mean,
that she does.
well, tremendous.
But I think, I couldn't, we're good partners and I couldn't do it without his help. And I think that I don't view it as work because I love it. My dean at school says, you really should just quit these things and study this year for these exams. Give up one or two of the things. And I said, I don't know what I would give up because I like all of it. I love the teaching. I love the kids. I love the hospital work. And, and I'm a spiritual person, and my goal in my rabbinate is, I think, and I don't know what I'll do when I graduate, but the two things I know I want to do are interfaith building bridges, because I feel so strongly that we are more all alike than not, and that we can each learn from each other's traditions. And so I love going to things, in the Catholic Church, or this summer I spent a week with 8 Muslim women and 8 Jewish women, and it was one of the best weeks I've had, just dialoguing, studying together. And I believe that, all the troubles in the world, if each person one-on-one could get to know someone, what's really in their heart, what's in their soul, that maybe this world wouldn't be in such trouble, that I think rather than judging and having fear and, sticking to your own because you're afraid of everything else, that if you took the time to really sit with someone across the table and get to know them. It's not easy. I'm not Pollyanna to think the world's problems would all be solved, but I think it has to start with that, one-on-one connections. And so the interfaith work is very important to me. And the other aspect that my school is called post-denominational, and they're not under the auspices of the Reform movement or the conservative movement, or certainly not the Orthodox, because, they wouldn't have me studying as a woman, except there is a new branch that is women are studying in Orthodoxy. But I think the Jewish community, it's time that we all work together, and we don't each sit in our synagogues in our own little, territory and judge each other as Jews, that you're not kosher enough, or you don't, you drive on Shabbat and you do this. We're a small Jewish people, and we need to build coalitions of all working together, and instead of always, separating.
No, you want her to live to be 200.
Yeah, I really like
I mean,
that.
I'm just
I really
listening
like
to
that.
this and
I'm
thinking,
a lucky man, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say very. You're both very lucky. So it's really more than exciting that you came tonight, and we were able to do this WPKN, because it'll be fun for people to listen, see what they take in and how it, reacts with them. I mean, between Harvey's carving, which they're going to have to go to that website and look at, but you'll be showing it. You show your work pretty much in the area. That's how I saw it.
Correct.
I saw it at the Fairfield Museum, and then it was in Easton.
Right.
So, and also the fact that you're both there on Reef Road. Exactly. I don't know how you do it all. I really am. I'm pretty good at getting things done too. But thank you so much for taking the time and sharing.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm 5 years the way you're going with that wood chipping, plus your wonderful work you do at the JFS.
Thank you, Dolly. Appreciate it.
Did I say it right? JFS?
Yeah, Jewish Family Service.
That's one of my favorite places in my heart. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck to you.
Oh, we done?
Dolly did it, as you said.